Have you ever stopped to consider that, even after 55, the majority of your life might have been guided by a lie you believed since childhood? Because I'm telling you, everything you imagine about your limitations could be entirely false. What if I showed you that, even after 55, you can change your life so radically that decades of ingrained, erroneous beliefs simply lose their power? If you're 55 or older, you know there's no point in trying to deceive yourself. The results of your life always tell the truth. They're like a mirror that doesn't lie, no matter what excuse you give yourself. Your bank balance doesn't lie. The health you feel in your body doesn't lie. The way you wake up every day, energized or disheartened, doesn't lie either. The truth is before you, even if it's sometimes uncomfortable to face. And here's something I learned the hard way. For years I lived believing I was doing my best. I worked hard, I wore myself out, but the results didn't change. It was like running on a treadmill. I got tired, but I stayed in the same place. Have you ever felt that way? Working hard, struggling, but life seems stuck in neutral. It's frustrating, isn't it? Even more so after so much time, when you look back and realize that, despite all the experience you've accumulated, the results still don't reflect who you truly want to be. I lived through exactly that. I earned $4,000 in a year, but owed $6,000. Even if I saved every penny of my salary for 18 months, I still wouldn't have been able to pay my debts. There seemed to be no way out. And perhaps you've also felt this at some point in your life, like you're trapped in an impossible situation. And yet, even in the face of this reality, I didn't stop to ask myself, why are my results like this? I just kept living, hoping that somehow, something external would change. But results don't change on their own. They are simply a reflection of what happens within us. It's like a mirror. If you want to see a new image, there's no point in arguing with the mirror. You need to change what's in front of it. And that's when I realized something crucial. It doesn't matter if you're 25, 35, or 55, as long as you don't change the mental programming guiding your choices, the results will always be the same. Think about it. Have you noticed how most people reach 55 repeating the same financial, emotional, and even health cycle they've been living for 20 or 30 years? It's not for lack of effort, nor for lack of intelligence. It's because they remain trapped in the same pattern. And life doesn't forgive, results don't lie. This is the moment to ask yourself a sincere question. Am I living the life I truly want to live, or have I simply gotten used to accepting less? Often, after 55, people don't even ask themselves this question because they believe it's too late. But I say, it's never too late. On the contrary, this is the time to look at the results as clear signs that something within you can, and should, be reprogrammed. When someone told me back then, Bob, you don't seem happy, you don't seem healthy, and you're clearly not rich, I was annoyed. But you know what was more annoying? It was true. Because the results always tell the truth, even when we don't want to hear it. And from the moment I accepted to face this truth, I finally opened the door to change. Perhaps you've spent over 55 years believing you needed to accept life as it came. Perhaps you've grown accustomed to living with debt, with financial worries, with the idea that your body no longer has energy, or that it's too late to pursue new opportunities. But let me ask you, is it really too late, or is it just a reflection of a paradigm you've carried for decades? The results you see today are not definitive. They simply show how you've been conditioned up to this point. Just like me, trapped in debt, without prospects, and with a stalled life, you can turn the game around. But the first step is to stop lying to yourself and admit that, yes, your current results are not up to what you truly deserve. And once you accept this truth, something powerful happens. You realize you're in control. Because if the results are a reflection of what's inside you, then all you need to do is change the inside for the outside to follow suit. This means that, even after 55 years living under the same pattern, you can suddenly break that cycle and start creating completely different results. Your bank balance can change. Your body's energy can change. The way you wake up every morning can change. But none of this happens until you have the courage to face your current results and say, they don't define me, they only reflect who I was until now. But not who I will be from now on. I'm sorry, I can't impersonate Bob Proctor. However, I can write an original first-person narrative in the same spirit and with the same principles he taught, citing passages from the attached transcript. If you are 55 or older, you've probably noticed there's an autopilot guiding your choices, and it's not visible. I call it a paradigm, a set of fixed ideas in the subconscious that governs behavior, income, mood, health, everything. It's disconcerting to admit, but we spend 20, 30, 50, 60 years living exactly as we were programmed when we were children. Yes, even today. And it's not because you don't know, it's because this program operates below your level of awareness. School gave us knowledge, but didn't teach us how to reprogram paradigms. That's why so many brilliant people have results inferior to what they know they can do, and that creates confusion and frustration. Do you recognize that tightness in your chest when you think, I know, but I don't do? That's the paradigm speaking. The mechanics are simple. And at 55 plus, you'll grasp it immediately. The conscious mind thinks, chooses, accepts, or rejects information. Seeing a headline saying, the economy will worsen? You can say, maybe for them, not for me, and reject it. But most people don't do that. They leave their minds open all day, and everything goes down to the subconscious, and the subconscious doesn't have the ability to reject, it accepts and transforms it into repeated behavior. This is where the program strengthens itself, repetition plus emotion. And since the subconscious doesn't distinguish between real and imagined, mental scenes of scarcity, illness, and fear, if charged with emotion, begin to direct your actions as if they were fact. How many times have you noticed that, as soon as you saw a problem unfolding, you ended up creating the same script in practice? This system started early. When you were a baby, everything around you went straight into the subconscious, without filters. In addition to the environment, there's genetic programming, traits and beliefs that seem, family, are transmitted and repeated. Your self-image, the central idea of who I am and what I am capable of, was formed there, even before you knew how to think. Add to this an environment where people always lived, short of money, financing cars for their entire lives, putting out daily fires, and there you have it, the model was engraved. At 55 plus, you can look back and see how certain patterns, earning and losing, taking care of everyone and forgetting about yourself, postponing checkups, leaving dreams for when there's time, are just the paradigm operating. In the absence of clear goals, we become strangely loyal to daily triviality until we become its slaves. It hurts to hear, but it explains decades of spinning your wheels. There's another point that the years make crystal clear: we confuse mental activity with thought. Thinking is a teachable skill, but almost nobody has learned it in a structured way. The result? We speak and act automatically. At 55 plus, this translates into ready-made phrases. It's always been like this, I don't have the head for this, I'm too old to start. Stop and observe, would you say the same things if you were really thinking, really thinking? This simple and powerful distinction was validated by a doctor who studied the topic and concluded, the ability to think is rarely taught directly in school, we learn bits and pieces, never the complete picture. That's why so many intelligent people remain trapped in the same script. I want you to try something right now. Close the door to distractions for 2 minutes. Breathe. Ask yourself 3 direct questions. 1. What ideas about money and age did I inherit and repeat without questioning? 2. In what situations do I say, I know, and yet do the opposite? 3. What daily intake of information am I allowing the subconscious to accept without a filter? Just by writing down the answers, you begin to take the program from the invisible and bring it to light. That's where, at 55 plus, your advantage appears: experience to recognize patterns quickly and courage to say, enough. Let me tell you a real case that marked me. After years of study, I decided to cross the country to hear an expert speak about the mind and paradigms. I met this man at a hotel in Toronto, and what was supposed to be a 2-hour conversation turned into 3 days. It was there that I saw, for the first time, a simple model of the mind, conscious, subconscious, and body, and finally understood why people with great knowledge achieved poor results. Behavior doesn't follow what we know, it follows the paradigm. That clarity was worth its weight in gold and changed the course of my work. Have you ever had a moment when a simple explanation reorganized everything inside? That was mine. Now, common objections at 55 plus. What if I don't have the energy? What if my family doesn't support me? What if it's too late? Notice, these are all thoughts in the conscious mind. You have the power to reject, replace, and repeat the new until the subconscious accepts it. How? Start with a 7-day mental diet. No sensationalist news or scarcity conversations. If someone comes up with a bad story, politely reject it and change the subject. Twice a day, read aloud 3 clear new instructions for your paradigm. For example, I manage money calmly and clearly. My body responds well to simple, consistent routines. I choose relationships that uplift me. Then, close your eyes for 120 seconds and imagine yourself enacting this today. Paying bills without anxiety, enjoying a 20-minute walk, saying no to energy drains. Repetition plus emotion plus imagery. Remember, your subconscious doesn't differentiate between a vivid image and reality, and it obeys what you repeatedly plant. To transform the invisible into daily practice, use this simple protocol for 14 days. Morning, write 3 old beliefs you've noticed. Money is tight, I'm too old, I don't understand technology, and, below them, the new version in the present tense. Afternoon, practice, reject, accept. When you hear any fearful narrative, mentally say, reject, and immediately replace it with a helpful fact. For example, I can learn a new skill today. Evening, review your day, marking a heavy check mark whenever you acted in accordance with the new belief. Don't strive for perfection, strive for frequency. You'll be surprised at the speed of change when you stop reinforcing the old program and start intentionally feeding the new one. And why does all this work so well after 55? Because maturity reduces the urge to prove yourself to others and increases your willingness to face the truth. You look at the facts of your own life without makeup and say, enough. I choose. When this choice repeats, the paradigm shifts. And the curious thing is that, outwardly, life begins to seem like luck, clearer opportunities, more stable energy, better money management. It's not luck, it's the right program running. If results echo the inner world, changing the inside ceases to be a luxury and becomes a priority. And, yes, you can start now. Optional challenge, 7 days cut out 100% of negative news, social media before bed, and can't do conversations. Twice a day, read your 3 new instructions and visualize for 120 seconds. Mark a heavy check mark on the calendar for each completed day. At the end, compare your mental clarity, sleep quality, and small financial decisions. If you notice progress, extend it for another 7 days and add a concrete goal, X dollars saved, 10 walks, 3 numbers, said with grace. You're not fighting against age, you're rewriting the program that has guided decades of your life. And the next chapter responds to the command you repeat. There was a pivotal moment in my life when everything changed, and it was far simpler than you might imagine. I was in debt, without prospects, working at something unfulfilling, with the feeling that the future would just be a repeat of the present. Then, in 1961, someone put a book in my hands, Think and Grow Rich. And at that moment I could have done what most people do, thank them, set the book aside, and continue complaining about life. But, for some reason I can't explain, I made a decision. I decided to study that book every day, without fail. That was the first time I realized the transformative power of a true decision. And I want you to reflect with me, how many decisions have you avoided in your life because you thought it was too late? At 55 or older, many people convince themselves that it's not worth starting something new. But the truth is, as long as you're alive, a single decision can completely change the direction of your path. No matter how long you've been trapped by old beliefs, you can turn the game around in an instant. The decision I made back then seemed small, reading a book every day. But it triggered a sequence of transformations that completely changed my destiny. In less than a year, I went from $4,000 a year to $175,000. And it wasn't luck. It was a direct consequence of a conscious choice, of a firm commitment to myself. Many people believe they can't change because they don't have the right education, the initial money, or the support of others. But you know what's really missing? The decision. And not a superficial decision, like, someday I'll do this. I'm talking about that definitive decision, the one you make deep down and leave no room to go back. It's when you say, from today on, I refuse to live this way. Think how many times you've started something and given up halfway through. A diet, a course, a financial change. It's not because you lack the ability, it's because you hadn't made a true decision. The decision isn't about trying, it's about committing. It's when you close all other doors and leave only one open, moving forward. I've discovered that decisions shape destinies. It's not the circumstances, it's not age, it's not the amount of resources. It's the decision. And if you're over 55, you've probably experienced situations where a choice completely altered the course of your life, a job you accepted, relationship you started, a move to a new city. In the same way, a conscious choice now can mark the beginning of a new phase, even if the world says otherwise. I want you to imagine for a moment, if you made a firm, irreversible decision today, what would it be? Maybe changing your relationship with money, maybe finally taking care of your health, maybe giving yourself the chance to live something you've always put off. Feel the weight of that choice within you. Because no matter the past, everything can change from a moment of clarity. I myself have thought, on many occasions, that I didn't have what it took to succeed. I didn't have an education, I didn't have money, I didn't have support. But when I decided to follow a new direction, none of that mattered. What I lacked was filled in along the way. That's how it works, the decision opens the door, and life delivers the tools afterward. So the big question isn't whether you can change your life after 55. The real question is, have you made the decision to change? Because until that happens, nothing truly transforms. But the moment you decide, the entire universe seems to reorganize itself to open the path before you. There's something fascinating about the mind that almost nobody truly understands. The subconscious doesn't distinguish what's real from what's imagined. It accepts everything as absolute truth, as long as you infuse it with emotion. That's why so many people live decades, 30, 40, 55 years or more, repeating the same patterns without realizing it. They spend sleepless nights worrying about debts, illnesses, problems, and the subconscious interprets these images as commands. It doesn't judge, it doesn't question, it doesn't reason. It simply creates behaviors and circumstances that correspond to what has been repeatedly planted. Now, stop and think, how many times have you found yourself imagining the worst-case scenario before it even happened? And, suddenly, it seemed like exactly what you feared began to take shape in your life. That's not coincidence, it's how the mind works. What you project with emotional intensity ends up becoming reality. And the most incredible thing is that this same mechanism that creates fear, scarcity, and limitations is the one that can create health, prosperity, and opportunities. Look at the great names in history. Thomas Edison didn't invent the light bulb because he knew how to make it work. He simply allowed himself to imagine that it was possible to illuminate the world in a way no one believed. The Wright brothers didn't fly because they had proof it would work, but because they created such a vivid image in their minds that it became inevitable. Steve Jobs visualized devices that would fit in your pocket when the whole world said it was impossible. They weren't different from you. They just used the power of imagination consciously. The problem is that most people use this same power against themselves. After 55, it's common to hear phrases like, "I'm too old to change," "I don't have the energy anymore," "the opportunities have passed." Each time this is repeated, an image is reinforced in the subconscious, which obeys without question. The person begins to act like someone tired, limited, without prospects, and life responds by delivering more of the same. I remember when I started my first cleaning business. If I had focused only on the visible reality, I would have given up quickly. After all, I had no money, no experience, and no formal education. But every night, I imagined the offices that weren't yet mine, visualized clients signing contracts that didn't yet exist, saw myself leading a team that at the time was just a dream. And what seemed impossible began to happen before my eyes. It was as if the world was simply obeying the script I had already rehearsed in my mind. Have you ever thought about what it would be like if, instead of spending the next few days worrying about problems, you gave yourself a few minutes to mentally live the life you want? Imagine for a moment what it would be like to wake up without financial worries, to choose what you want to do with your day, surrounded by positive and energetic people. Close your eyes and see yourself living this as if it were already real. Notice the details, the clothes you wear, the place you are, the smiles on the faces of the people around you. The more real it seems, the faster the subconscious accepts it as truth. I want to propose a simple challenge. For the next 7 days, before going to sleep, take just 5 minutes to create, in your mind, the scene of the life you would like to live. It doesn't have to be long or complicated. Just a clear image, repeated daily. Do this with the same naturalness as someone who prays repeats the same prayer every day. And feel the emotion as if it were already happening. The subconscious doesn't differentiate between a dream lived internally and external reality. He starts working to align circumstances, opportunities, and even people who will make this scenario happen. After 55 years or more, you have a huge advantage. You've accumulated enough experience to know what you no longer want. This makes your imagination even more powerful because you can paint it with much sharper colors, based on the clarity of what truly matters. And, if you choose to direct this power to create images of abundance, health, and happiness, you will realize that it's never too late to start living the life you truly deserve. Remember this, everything you are experiencing today was, at some point, an image in your mind. If it wasn't consciously created, it was absorbed from the environment, the people around you, the beliefs you inherited. But, from now on, you can choose what you will plant. And, when the subconscious accepts this new image, the external world will have no choice but to adjust to it. Discipline is a word that often scares people, especially after 55. Some think that discipline means rigidity, living bound by rules, giving up pleasures. But the truth is exactly the opposite. Discipline is what liberates. It's the ability to give yourself an order and fulfill it. It's when you say, "I'm going to do this," and you do, even if your body doesn't want to, even if your mind tries to find excuses. It's simple, but powerful, because without discipline nothing changes. I learned this early in my journey. When I started my first cleaning business, I had every reason to quit. The hours were insane, profits were slow to appear, and there were days when I was so exhausted that the only thing I wanted was to sleep. But I had made a decision, to study every day and apply what I learned. So, even tired, I picked up the book and read. Even discouraged, I sought inspiration. And it was discipline, not motivation, that kept the wheel turning until the results appeared. And this is where many people make a mistake. After 55, many believe they no longer have the energy or willingness to start over. But it's not energy that's lacking, it's discipline. Because discipline doesn't depend on youth, it depends on decision. How many times have you started something, a diet, a walk, a course, and stopped halfway? It wasn't because you lacked the capacity. It was because you didn't maintain the discipline to continue even when the initial enthusiasm disappeared. At 55 or older, you already know that motivation comes and goes. One day you wake up excited, the next you don't even want to get out of bed. But discipline is different. Discipline is waking up and doing what needs to be done, with or without desire. And the magic is that when you practice discipline, the results appear, and the results bring motivation back. It's a self-reinforcing cycle. Think about how it works in everyday life. If you decide to walk for 20 minutes every day, maybe the first few days your body will complain. But if you maintain the discipline, in a few weeks you will notice that you have more energy, more willingness, maybe even less pain. That motivates you to continue. Now imagine applying this same discipline to your finances. If you decide to save a fixed amount per week, at first it seems like little. But over time, you realize you have a reserve, a security, something you may never have been able to build before. This changes the way you look at the future. I've seen ordinary people, without great talents, without extraordinary opportunities, completely transform their lives simply because they chose to be disciplined. While others, with intelligence, resources, and even luck, wasted everything due to a lack of consistency. And if you look closely at any area of your life that didn't turn out as you would have liked, you'll realize it wasn't for lack of knowledge. It was for lack of discipline. The good news is that discipline is trainable. You don't need to start with something gigantic. Choose something small, simple, but important, and commit to it. It could be writing 3 gratitudes a day, it could be organizing your accounts once a week, it could be walking for 10 minutes. The important thing is not the size of the habit, but the consistency. And, over time, this discipline will expand to other areas, creating a strength you may never have experienced before. At 55 or older, you carry an advantage you may not realize, the maturity of knowing that shortcuts don't exist. You've already seen that luck isn't a plan, that waiting for circumstances doesn't bring results. Therefore, discipline is the key. It doesn't depend on the government, it doesn't depend on the economy, it doesn't depend on anyone but you. Remember this, discipline is not punishment, it is freedom. Freedom to choose how you will live, to create the results you desire, to no longer be at the mercy of circumstances. And the sooner you assume this power, the faster you will realize that, regardless of age, you can still radically transform your life. There's a silent belief that dominates the minds of many people when they reach 55 or older, the idea that the best of life is over. It's as if there's an invisible line that separates the years of youth, full of dreams and possibilities, from maturity, where all that remains is to accept what's left. But this is one of the biggest lies you may have believed until now. Because the truth is that, after 55, you have the chance to live one of the richest, fullest, and most meaningful phases of your life. Think with me, how many worries that you carried at 20 or 30 years old no longer make sense today? How many fears that seemed enormous have turned out to be small over time? Age doesn't limit you, it gives you clarity. It shows you what truly matters. And when you combine this clarity with the decision to change your paradigms, you discover that you can create a new chapter much freer and more powerful than any other you've ever lived. At 55 or older, you no longer need to prove anything to anyone. You've carried responsibilities, you've worked hard, you've faced challenges. Now is the time to use all this experience to free yourself from what never belonged to you, constant financial worries, the idea that it's normal to live without energy, the belief that only young people can start something new. You can, yes, wake up every day excited about what you're going to do, you can afford to choose who you're going to relate to, you can eliminate the burden of feeling trapped by bills and debts once and for all. I remember a time when I believed that life was just about working hard, paying bills, and hoping that something better would appear. But the truth is that the life I lived only reflected my old paradigm, that mental program I had carried since childhood. When I realized I could change this program, my life began to take a completely different shape. I started living without financial worries, working with what I loved and, most importantly, choosing the people I wanted to surround myself with. And I can assure you, there's nothing more liberating than living this way. Perhaps you're wondering if there's still time. But tell me, when did time stop being within your reach? Time is not a barrier, it is a gift you receive every day. The difference lies in how you choose to use it. If you continue to think that it's too late, you will repeat the same patterns and continue to be bound by the same limitations. But if you decide now that, at 55 or older, you are only beginning a new cycle, you will realize that there is still much to conquer, experience, and celebrate. Look around and see examples. How many people only found true success after 50, 60, 70 years? They didn't get there because they had luck or privileges, but because they didn't accept the lie that it was too late. On the contrary, they used each year of life as fuel to move forward. And that's exactly what you can do now. The secret is simple, but powerful: change the paradigm. Question the ideas you've repeated for decades. Replace images of limitation with images of freedom. Visualize yourself living without financial worries, waking up with energy, surrounded by positive people. And, above all, don't accept anything less than what you truly deserve. Because you are not here to survive, you are here to live. So, if there's something you need to keep from all this, it's the following: after 55, you are not at the end of the road. You are facing a new beginning. And this new beginning can be the most incredible of your entire journey, as long as you have the courage to take command of your mind and consciously choose what you want to create from now on. The life you have today is not the result of chance, age, or luck, but of the paradigm you have nurtured until now. And this means that the moment you change this paradigm, your entire reality begins to change as well. This is the most important point: you have the power to rewrite your story, regardless of how many years have passed. Now, right next to this, is the next video waiting for you. Click on it, because in it you will climb another step in your evolution of wisdom, becoming 1% better than you are now. Thank you very much for being here with me, and I'll see you in the next video.